Hello, I'm Sidd Negretti, joined by, as usual, Barbee Fagan and Eric Recker. Today, we are continuing to explore the lessons from the mountain. And in our last episode, we really had Barbee talking about her lessons from both Jackson Hole and from Aspen. And so today, we're going to talk to Eric about his lessons from the mountain as well. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Sid. I'm excited for this conversation. Barbee teed it up so well last time, so let's do it.
Eric, I'm going to ask you this again, and I'm hoping that you get the cue. How are you doing?
Ending.
I was waiting
There
for
we
that.
go, buddy.
I don't know if you
There
know
we
this
go.
about me, Sid, but I never get tired.
You
So
never get tired. Hey,
outstanding.
listen. Never die in the chair, Eric. Never die in the chair.
Absolutely. I will not. You will not see it happen.
All right. With that said, again, you've done Snow Basin. You did that, I think, in 2024. You then, in 2025, shifted over to the Ultra Marathon Series Trail in Park City, Utah. You probably learned a ton. I know you've shared a ton with me. We lived it real time in Park City. Why don't you give everybody, and I love saying this, the 29,000 foot view of what the mountains taught you in those first two events that you participated in?
Man, Sid, I'll just talk for about 6 hours and I'll scratch the surface of what I've learned. That's what's so cool about this is you go in there, again, expectations, expecting to complete the thing, expecting to do this, having all these outcomes. But what you don't understand until you actually do it is how it is such an experience. It's such a journey. It's such a life-changing thing if you embrace it and allow it to be that way and you understand it. And Snow Basin was my first event. Boy, I was terrified. What the heck did I sign up for? I'm not really that much of a camper. I'm a little too bougie to be a camper. I can admit that. But the glamping and tent situation that happens at Snow Basin really set me up for not sleeping great. Some people love it. It was awesome for them, but that with some nervous energy or crapping bricks, whatever you want to call it, and the unknown of that first day, I did not sleep at all the night before leading into Snow Basin. And I also learned the day before that I had a really terrible electrolyte strategy going into the race. That got kind of scary because one of the things that we say is nothing new on race day, right? Never do anything new on race day, except we always do lots of things new. Even though we try not to. But fortunately, I met with a guy from Precision Hydration who works for Precision, and we were talking through electrolyte strategy, and he says, how are you not, that's all you're taking? How are you not bonking every time you have a workout? Well, I was bonking every time I had a workout. He goes, when you work out, do you have white lines all over your shirt? Do you have that? I'm like, yeah, I'm that guy. Like my shirt is nasty. It's riddled with white lines. You can see the salt lines, all that kind of stuff. He says, well, I don't know without you doing a sweat test, but I think you need to take a lot more electrolytes in. And I think had I not had that conversation with him, I really would have gotten in trouble on the mountain. But I still did get in trouble Snow Basin. And one of the things we talk about, Brent Pease from Kyle Pease Foundation and a coach from 29 talks a lot about the messy middle. And it's a concept that has really become near and dear to my heart because the Snow Basin mountain, you climb 13 times. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we've kind of talked about it, but it's hike up, gondola down, rinse and repeat until you get to 29,000 vertical feet. Every mountain is different. Barbee talked about how Aspen was 9, correct? And Jackson was 19. Snow Basin is 13. And so where the messy middle plays in is laps 1 to 3, you're just kind of getting it figured out. There's a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. You're just kind of getting settled in. And laps 11 to 13, you can see the end. So there's a lot of excitement there. But what are you going to do with 4 through 10? And the reality is most of life is 4 through 10. Lap 4 really exposed me. As I was hiking up, fortunately, I met a couple guys on lap 2 and we started hiking together. We happened to be similar pace, had lots to talk about, and we just kind of formed this bond. And so we were hiking together. Now, the beauty of that is I started to fall apart on lap 4. I got to this place where I had brain fog. And I think we've all experienced brain fog at some point in our life, whether we were exercising, maybe we didn't sleep well, maybe we had a little too much to eat or drink the night before, but our brain is just not functioning in that space that we really want it to. And it's yuck. It's uncomfortable. We don't like it. We want to get away from it. Well, I had that along with some upset stomach, which is not very typical for me. And we were getting towards the top, and I said, Tom and Pete, I feel like crap. Like my gut doesn't feel good. My head is just in a bad place. I don't know how much more of this I have left. And fortunately, they both said, hey, I think it's time that we eat something. Because when you're on the mountain, it's gels and chews and maybe a little bit of an Uncrustable or a Pop-Tart or something like that. I have found for myself that I need to eat food. Like I need to use my jaw and really chew on food so that I'm satisfied. So we went back down. I got a whole bunch of electrolytes, probably went a little bit overboard, but then actually ate a meal, forced myself to eat a meal. Lap 4 ended up being the only really, truly bad lap that I had. But my point in sharing all that is that we're all going to have a yuck lap in life. We're all going to have a time when we're in the middle, we're waiting for a promotion and the news doesn't come, the news doesn't come, the news doesn't come. We're waiting for a diagnosis, we're waiting for whatever. We're in that slog of our career where we can't see the beginning and we can't see the end and we're just in it. It's what do you do in that time when you're in the messy middle that really determines how things work out going forward. What have you guys' experiences been with that?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because you just touched on something and you're translating it back to what's probably more present in my life. I love being a part of these events and I absolutely love learning about what I know about myself and other people during these events. But it's such a compressed time in the span of things, right? I live my life outside of these mountains much more than I live on the mountains themselves. And you just got into it because what I've noticed for so many years in my life, you talk about lap 4 and you're talking about a mountain event and you're talking about how it's just really hard. What I've noticed is a lot of people give up, whether it's a mountain event specifically, and they don't actually just go down for a meal. They literally say, this event is not for me. I'm not going to do this event. I'm cashing in. I'm doing something else. I'm moving on. And I noticed that in life too, whether it is, working with a spouse or trying to interact with a child or coworkers or a leader at work or, someone who you're partnering with in a business and you're trying to get somewhere and it's not going where you want it. You're in that messy middle in real life. And I've noticed too many people just give up. Like they don't have the answer. They're not willing to explore the answers and they just walk away, which is dumbfounding to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, the important part was I had Tom and Pete there with me. I wasn't trying to hike alone. And there's nothing wrong with trying to do a 29 by yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But fortunately, I had those two guys there that could speak wisdom into me and say, oh, no, you're not done. We just need to make some changes. And so I was super thankful for that. I don't think I would have given up, but I think I would have had a drastically different experience. Would you say that, Barbie?
Absolutely. And what I also found specifically on the mountain is what you said, Sid, when people cash it in quickly or early in some situations, it's likely because they've not yet gone through something like that. So when you experience going through the messy middle and you come out, like, hey, that wasn't so bad. And so you have to go through it. You got to go through it at least once to know that you're capable of going through it. And so when I would see people struggling that were on that like teeter of, this is it, I'm done. And I'm like, keep going, because it's never going to be as bad as you think and it's never going to be as good as you think. In these long events, it just keeps ebbing and flowing. So when the good's good, you revel in it. But when it's tough, you just keep going forward. And I don't know if the two of you have heard me say, but I like to say slow is forward. So as long as you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you will come out of that messy middle. When people give up is they don't experience that first time where they went, it works. So there's a lot of first timers at 29029. So that was your first time also. But I bet, Eric, you leaned into other adventures that you've done and endurance events, AKA Ironman. That whole day from the swim start to the crossing the finish line is not all sunshine and roses.
Not
correct?
even close. Not even close. Yeah, you're exactly right.
So to that point, you were starting to get there. Both of you just gave a perfect example of this. So Eric, you were talking about Tom and Pete and how they created a reset for you by getting you off the mountain and putting some real food in front of you. And Barbie, you just talked about moving forward step by step, and that's like a reset mechanism to try to move you past that messy middle. Could you give us some more thoughts, Eric, in terms of how you have been able to manage resets, what those resets have been, and even how those resets could apply off the mountain?
I tell you what, I think this is one of the most important things that we can possibly do in our lives is to learn how to reset from both a micro and a macro level. I touched on it before that I'm a dentist and I constantly have to walk from room to room to room and beyond every single time. I have to be able to reset my mind to be able to walk into that next room in a favorable frame of mind, not only because that's what I need to do, but it's because it's the right thing to do for that next patient and for that hygienist. I realized this at trail, and trail is a different animal. I'm not going to say it's harder. I'm not going to say it's easier. It's just a different animal. So you still have 36 hours total to complete this thing, but it's 12 hours each day for 3 days, and you have a mountain marathon ahead of you each day. So it's not 29,000 vertical feet. In Park City, it was 17,000 over those 3 days. Your mileage in 1 day is about what the mountain events are in the 3 days. So it's weighing all these different things, but you really have to manage your energy for a multi-day event. And so I was doing some other research for some of the speaking that I do, and I thought it really struck me. One day, my phone was just being stupid, as technology does. And so what's the first thing that we do when our phones are being stupid?
Turn
We
it
turn
off.
them off and we turn them back on, right? If we called Apple or whatever customer service, they would say, well, did you try powering it off and powering it back on? Even if you did, try it again. And then with our computers, if our computers are being dumb, what do? Control Alt Delete, right? And then I thought, wow, how can we for ourselves hit Control Alt Delete if we're being stupid? If we're having a bad day, if we're in a bad mood, before we walk into the door when we get home after work for our families, before we go into the next room, before we go into the next meeting, how can we do that? Well, I learned that there were some options at Trail to reset at the end of the day. I'd never done a cold plunge before. Now I do one more days than I don't. But here was my routine after listening to everybody talk. It's get done with the event, get some food, shower, cold plunge, assisted stretching. I need some blister care, and then Normatec recovery boots with an IV. And all of those things, and then eat, and then go lay down and try to get a good night of sleep. All of that helps me be ready to go again the next day. I had some amazing nights of sleep. I had some amazing recovery. I don't know which of those things it was, but I think it was all of those things together. So in our lives, what are some of the things that we can do to reset? Well, maybe you have a recentering phrase that you use to bring you back into the present moment. Maybe you have something that you say or you take a deep breath. The problem is, I think we go to our phones so quickly when we feel just a little bit uncomfortable in between things. What if instead of that, we did something called a physiologic sigh? Are you guys familiar with the physiologic sigh? I love it. It's one of the best resets because when we're hyped up and we're in that fight or flight situation, it's all sympathetic nervous system. We got to get that calmed down. So all you do is you take a really deep breath and then just another little, so you have a full lungs of air and then a long audible exhale. And so that really slow, that'll take an elevated situation and bring it back down. After 8 hours or 9 hours, Sid, you were there with me, after all of that racing and all of that wear and tear on our bodies, we needed to learn how to quickly reset so that we could get ready to go again the next day. So maybe that reset for you is on your drive home. If your drive normally takes 10 minutes and that's not enough time for you to decompress, what if you found a 15-minute route to get you home? What if you found a 20-minute route to get you home? Not every day, but on those days that you needed it. Instead of picking up your phone, what if you walk around the block or walk around your office a little bit? What if instead of scrolling on social media, you write down a few things you're grateful for? What are these things we can do to reset to get us back in the game faster?
I love the fact that you transitioned that pretty quickly, not only to mountain escapades, if you will, but into real life. And you came up with a couple things that I hadn't thought through. But it is so important. I think when you're in that moment, you have to figure out how to, in my personal opinion, give yourself permission to achieve a reset. It is so easy when things are going wrong to sit there and just hunker down and try to solve them. And then they compound and you never get that ability to give yourself that reset. And to your point, yes, there may be emails at work or there may be patients in your waiting room or whatever it might be. But just taking time to get up and walk away for 2 minutes. And again, shout out to Dr. Tricia Smith and the breathing exercise that you just did. That took what, 7 to 10 seconds? So I love that.
Yeah. Barbie, what's your experience been with resets?
That breathing technique that you did, I do it often. And so whether it's in CrossFit, in a running event, I was just with someone recently. I can't recall when it was, but I said, "Hey, it's time to belly breath." And then, and I think I was also sharing with them, breathe through the nose, because when we breathe through the nose and expand that belly, that's going to help deregulate also. So it's an easy technique that is available to all of us, and we don't call upon it often. So it's not always my go-to, but then I'm like, wait a second, if we just breathe a little bit, everything will kind of down-regulate. So thanks for bringing that back up.
I was just going to add the one last thing I was going to add is we put so much pressure on macro resets. And I'd say like a macro reset is a vacation. But the problem is we go into these vacations and we've run ourselves into the ground getting prepared for them. We are so tightly corked when we start our 1-week vacation, and we got up super early so we could get to the airport because the cheaper flights and, you do all the things, that it's day 4 of that 7-day vacation before we start to get uncorked a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 2 good days, and then we're thinking about going back and all the stuff we didn't do and everything that's going to be waiting for us. If we can learn how to do micro reset at an aid station, even in the race, at an aid station, have a conversation with a coach, have a conversation with somebody, send an encouraging text to a friend in life or in a race. If we can learn how to do a few of those Control-Alt-Deletes every day, you're going to find yourself in a position where you don't have to rely so heavily on that vacation. And then it will be so much more rich. That's been a life changer for me.
And Barbie, you're talking about on these mountains, there's a lot of first timers. We, not too long ago, were first timers ourselves, and we're learning all of this stuff on our own. And I just recently spent a weekend with a lot of first timers that are preparing for Stratton in Vermont in October. And these mini resets on the mountain, just going back to that example, even if it's as you're walking up the mountain, if you get to a flat spot, instead of holding your poles like on the ready as you're going to just like work through the mountain, get to a flat spot, put them both in one hand, put them upside down, and just walk with them at your side. Believe it or not, that's a reset, because that hard mountain that you just climbed is behind you now, and you're not climbing a mountain right now, you're just walking. Another one that I like to use that I shared is, instead of doing a continuous clock, and I know there's a lot of controversy around this, instead of setting your Garmin and doing a continuous clock from start to finish of the event, each lap is its own, clock. And once you get done with that lap, you turn off your watch, stop, new lap, because that's a reset. That's a reset. One of my favorite resets, Eric, you were at Snow Basin. I came this year to do it. Getting into a late night shower in the shower tents, in the shower trailer. I mean, there's just nothing better than that hot, steamy shower after you've spent all day on the mountain, and just getting under there and spending time with the soap and you're not out in the mountain anymore. That's a reset. And so those little things that hopefully some of these first timers can embrace and maybe come up with some of their own and share with others, I think will help them not only in the event, but also get them thinking about the life that they want to live off the mountain as well. Speaking of, Eric, we're getting into these resets, really get into the concept that you like to talk about in terms of controlling what you can. Can you talk a little bit more, whether it's the trail experience, whether it's the mountain experience or another experience where you really have had to work on controlling what you can and how you put that into play?
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever gotten from a coach is it's a long day. Something is going to go wrong. And so the first Ironman that I did in 2010 was one called Beach to Battleship. And it was not an Ironman brand, but it was an Ironman distance in Wilmington, North Carolina. And the swim was in intercoastal waters, so you can imagine how cold it was. So wetsuit legal for darn sure. And as I started swimming, it was usually the start of those is crazy, but there were about 700 people in this one instead of the 2,500 or 3,000 or whatever the number is for Ironman. So it was better, but it's still pretty congested. Kind of think koi pond at the zoo where you feed them and they're all jumping all over each other. That's kind of what the start is. About 200 meters-ish into that 2.4-mile swim, I got kicked really hard on my wrist, and my watch separated itself from my body and went to the bottom of the intercoastal water. Well, that watch was my power meter for my bike. It was my cadence. It was my speed and odometer. It was for running. It was everything. It was all the data. I had trained every single workout with that watch, and I lost it. And so the rest of the day, the only way I knew how fast I was going on my bike was 5-mile splits. The only way I knew how fast I was running was mile splits. It's a long day. Something's going to go wrong. And I could have been, woe is me. I lost my watch. Instead, my wife tossed me her ladies pink IMAX Ironman watch that the face is about this big. And that's what I had.
Yeah.
And so when something goes wrong, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What can you still control? Well, I could still control my effort. I could still control my attitude. I couldn't know what my cadence was. I couldn't know what my power output was, but I pretty much knew that because I'd been training the whole time. So I got to do it by feel. I did my first Ironman by feel. And guess what? That was okay. So a lot of things happen as you're going through a race. Your stomach might go to crap like Barbee's did, or you might have a nagging knee or hip or something that's not right. What can you control? Can you get to the recovery station and have one of the therapists work that out for you a little bit? Can you ice it? Can you do Normatec boots? Can you take a little break? Can you get some advice from some? What can you control? Because something is going to go wrong. Again, that stimulus and response, we own that space. And we've already done everything that we could leading up to it. That's all in the bank already. So what is it that you can do in the moment? And again, getting back to what you said last time, Barbee, what is your plan?
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, this happened to me, what is your plan? Because there's got to be a plan, or else you just stand there and feel sorry for yourself.
Eric, the one thing I kept hearing you say are using the words what and how. What can I do? How can I get through this? Where oftentimes when we go to the negative, it's why did this have to happen to me now? Why did I get a cold 2 days before the mountain event?
Who is a big one too.
Yeah. Who said this to me or who did this? But the questions that you just posed, again, we can choose to ask those questions of ourselves. Not why is this? How can I get through? How can I get to that next aid station? Man, I got a cramp in my calf like there's nothing else. And okay, the aid station, I can see it. I can hear the cowbells. What do I need to do to get up to that aid station safely so that someone can help me? So I love the what and how questions.
On day 3 of trail, already at this point, I was at the 15-mile mark. And my body's pretty much done. It was just like, I'm kind of sick of running. This is more running than I've done. Like it's 15. I got, whatever, 11 miles left. I thought it was more like 14. That T3 is kind of a son of a gun there. But I stopped and I had been kind of jogging with some people, and one of them went ahead and one kind of fell behind. And I found myself at mile 15, and I said, okay, I'm going to walk the rest of the way. I'm going to finish in about 10 hours. I got 12 to do it. There's no shame in finishing at that amount of time. I'm just going to slow down. I'm just going to do that. And then I remembered something that my mentor had taught me to do, and that was to do a body scan. And I didn't do it where you lay down on the floor and the whole intent of it, but I checked in with every part of my body. Like, okay, my head, how's my head doing? Gosh, my brain's actually really clear. No mental fog. Okay, how are my shoulders doing? Shoulders are good, arms are good, chest is good, stomach's actually surprisingly good. Hips, yeah, pretty tight, but no damage. Quads are okay, calves are okay. Feet are riddled with blisters, something I'd never faced before. Again, it's a long day, something's going to go wrong. But they hurt, but there wasn't going to be any permanent damage. So I was there with this choice of I can walk the rest of the way, or what the heck? I'm feeling okay. Might as well keep moving. So I started jogging again. And we have that. And there would have been no shame in finishing walking the rest of the way, but I still had that in me. And I learned that my body has that. My mind said, you know what? Why don't we just, let's just throw it in. Let's just hike the rest of the way. But in doing that, I got to catch up to 2 other people that I had been hiking with the day before. And we all got to finish together.
That's awesome.
And it was a really special moment, but I stopped, paused, checked in with my body and said, okay, this is what I got left. Let's go. It was really good.
And I love that segue because you're starting to get into talking about the community. And I know, Barbee, you've already talked a lot about the community. Frankly, the 3 of us being here is a function of the community, the fact that we know each other. And that's going to be the topic for our next podcast. We're going to really dive in deep to what is it about the 29 community? What does it mean to us? What lessons have we learned from others in the community? And how are we taking them, not only teaching them to ourselves, but taking them into our everyday lives off the mountain? So I'm really excited about that conversation. Great conversation today. Super exciting. Thanks to everybody who's been joining us along the way here. This is The Thin Line. And until next time, be where your feet are and remember to live. And Barbee,
Memento vivere.
there we go. Thank you, guys.